Today's been about trying to bring together various politicians, policymakers, interest groups and other people that have got an interest in the future of Yorkshire. And the purpose of this really is to begin a conversation about what do we mean by decentralisation and what is the idea of Yorkshireness. What do Yorkshire people want? And in many ways, it is a conversation that's only beginning because of what happened in Scotland. So the University of Huddersfield is keen to be at the centre of these debates. And so what we hope for is that we get some firmer ideas so that after the general election in 2015, we can move forward in gaining a greater political momentum towards decentralisation.
So the idea of, I think, regional devolution is that people don't want a regional government for Yorkshire, don't want a Yorkshire Prime Minister or anything like that. What they want is more local powers deciding their local community. So in my area, that might be around the Humber. Over here, it might be based around this Leeds City region. So I think, actually, it's about getting powers away from Westminster, away from Whitehall, because we know we can make better decisions here. We don't need to make those decisions for Yorkshire as a whole. We can make them for our local bit of Yorkshire. And that's what today's been all about, actually.
If we listen to today's discussion, I'm more on the grassroots democratic side. But I'm also thinking that there's a very big political and social change coming that most of the people here today hadn't woken up to, particularly on the panel. I believe some really big changes coming from grassroots changes where people want more of a voice, want more activity from a grassroots level, but they also want some sense of direction and leadership and vision in our region.
I think we've already seen with the session we've had here at Huddersfield University this morning that politicians of all colours, all different persuasions, are now working together to get a good deal for Yorkshire. As I explained, when I leave my home in Honley on a Monday morning and catch the train from Wakefield down to London, I arrive in this amazing glass metropolis that's like Dubai with all the money and investment that's going in there. And I come back here to Huddersfield, which is wonderful. I love my home here in Huddersfield, but I want a bit of that. I want more opportunities for young people, more apprenticeships, more jobs. I want even better university. I want a new striker for Huddersfield Town. I don't want the M62 so clogged up. I want new trains, to get people to work in Leeds and Manchester and Sheffield. But the way we can do that is by getting politicians working together and the government to devolve decision making to Yorkshire, but they also need to back it up with the funds. There's no point in just having politicians or people talking about things if at the end of the day they then haven't got the chequebook to actually pay for the projects and investment that's actually needed here.
We actually live in a country where we could not be more centralised if we tried. So many decisions are taken in Whitehall, in Westminster, that people have not got any say about whatsoever. And I genuinely think that we need to grow up like other mature democracies like Germany, France, Spain, Italy, where there's so much more decision making, so much more taxes raised and spent at the local level, and that's the kind of democracy we need to live in.
It was very interesting to hear Ed Cox's overall view. I don't agree with all of it, but I thought his perspective was very well grounded. And then, of course, you got the politicians, and it was really good to see them having things that they'd work together on, because I think that's what people want, people working together in the interest of all of us. But then, of course, their disagreements started to surface, and I thought some of the things they were saying about, they were interested in grassroots involvement, about bottom-up, but actually they had their own solutions to what should happen, rather than saying, this is what I think, and we need to find out what other people think and come to an agreement with each other. So that's my perspective on this morning.
There are lots of people who simply have stopped voting, and that's actually really, really sad, because when people are disengaged from the political process, it means that they're not involved in making the decisions that actually affect their lives. And they're only really the main way of dealing with that actually is proving to people that actually taking part in the political process actually does have a direct impact on their life. So the more that decisions are made locally, and the more people can see the people who are making those decisions as local to them, and they see them in the street. My constituents see me in the pub. When they know that those decision makers are local, then perhaps they'll engage more in the process. But it's a two-way thing, though, because people also themselves have to actually get off the backsides and get involved in the political process, as well as expecting politicians and decision makers to come to them. So it is a two-way process.
The benefits of today is to bring different groups of people that wouldn't ordinarily come together to talk to each other At the moment there's a debate in Westminster, there are debates in town halls across Yorkshire, and there are debates in society, but they're not really talking very well to each other. So today's event is the first of many. It's time for us to have a conversation about the future of Yorkshire, and if the University of Huddersfield can help bring people together to do that, then that is a positive outcome.
We already have a problem because a lot of decisions are made in London and people do feel a bit detached from it. I must admit, when I go down to London, I feel like a little lost lad in the big city. But the way in which we're going to tackle that is to have decisions made here in Yorkshire. And we've already seen that we can put on great shows with the Tour de France, and we can actually bang the drum for our area. But if we can show the world and the rest of the United Kingdom what we're able to do, as Huddersfield University has already done, the world is our oyster. But we need to involve people in the decision making, let them decide upon our priorities. And I think it's already clear from my mailbag that people don't like the overcrowded trains, they don't like the fact that our roads aren't gritted, they don't like the cost of the trains and the bus services, they want more apprenticeship and training opportunities, and they want even more great universities like Huddersfield University.
My sense is that the mainstream political parties at the moment are not offering the kind of devolved solutions, ideas that I think many people are looking for. People aren't out there saying, oh, we want to devolve this or we want to devolve that. But people get what the people in Scotland were saying about, actually, this Westminster system's not really working for us. And I don't think the Westminster system is going to come up with the solutions, which is why I think we need people to be developing those solutions from the bottom up. And I've said today, I think after the general election, some of the people in this room, some of the people around the north of England need to get themselves together, and we can set up a Northern Constitutional Convention, a big conversation in the whole of the north of England about the kind of north of England that we want to see. And I think that's the way to go.
Young people are tired with many of the traditional ways of getting involved in politics. But these days, in terms of social enterprise, in terms of social innovation, in terms of crowdfunding, we're suddenly going to have the ability, to start things in our communities, get things moving in our communities, really get a political involvement that means something. At the same time, don't forget, people also want some really charismatic leadership. They want the opportunity to say there's a vision for our region that is as good as London, that's as good as Scotland, and they want people to lead that in a passionate way so that we get some real changes. I came into politics to get the good life for people, whatever community they come from. And it's about time we all woke up to the fact that we're not there yet.
Well, this is one of the big debates about how you actually devolve power down from Whitehall. Some people would argue that you need to set up a Yorkshire regional government and you have a new layer of politicians or elected representatives there. I don't share that view, and I don't think a lot of people in Yorkshire share that view either. So one way of doing it is, we make use of the structures we've already got, be that the local enterprise partnerships, be it the local councils we have, even local town councils or other groups. So actually you can devolve power away without having to create a whole new set of bureaucracy. But there's a mix, here today where we've been discussing this, people have a wide range of views on this. So, it may well be that, some people do want regional government, others I think would say, well, just give us the powers to the bodies that already exist.
What we have at the moment, we're one of the most highly centralised, in England, the highly centralised states in the whole of Europe. And it's not working. It might be working for London, it's not working for the rest of the country. In the north, we have a lot of some of the most impoverished regions in the European Union are in our north of England. So our model of politics and of power is not working in terms of delivering economic prosperity for our country, certainly in the north of England.
The problem we've got is that we only know the system that we've got at the moment, and I think the exciting thing is to try and invent a new kind of system that actually isn't a new tier of bureaucracy. It's not more mainstream Westminster politicians, which are the things that people say they like the most. It's actually people like them taking power in their local communities to do the things that they want to do themselves. People don't argue against that. Saying to somebody, would you like to be more in control of what's going on in your neighbourhood? Would you like to have more of a say about your health services, your schools and so on? People want that. But the way it's always presented to them is these Westminster politicians another layer of bureaucracy. Of course you don't want that.
That nobody likes the hard times that we've gone through. But politics is about getting through that. And I think in the coming election, we've got an election in just a couple of months' time. I think the 3 parties and 5 parties, 6 parties, how many will it be, will articulate what people want. We're not a 2-party state anymore. There's going to be a lot of voices heard in this coming election. And we're going to, anyone who tries to mislead the British public in this election, we're going to lose a lot of votes. And I put my faith in the Labour leadership, Ed Miliband, and the team that we've built, and the fact that people now believe that the people with a great deal of money and power and influence have had it good for too long. And it's about time other people shared the wealth.
Well, this is the problem with any constitutional change you try to make. You have to think about, if you talk about House of Lords reform, talk about Scottish devolution, talk about devolution of the regions, people often know that we want something, but we're not agreed in exactly what we want or how we would deliver it. And that's because, let's be honest, the public have a wide, you could go out anywhere in Huddersfield or across Kirklees and ask anybody how they think decision making should be changed, and you'd probably get 100 different views, possibly from only 90 people, because other people hold 2 views. So it is hard to build a consensus, but I think if we can coalesce around the simple idea that the current system doesn't work for our region, too many decisions are taken in Whitehall, as long as we can agree that, let's start getting the powers back or devolved down to that we can easily, then we can have a discussion about some of those bigger issues moving forward.
By local people having a say on things, we know what we need in our area. I know how bad transport is because I sit in the traffic jams, I go on the buses, I go on the trains. I know what overcrowding is like because I stand up on the way back from London and can't do any work on my laptop because I'm standing up. So I'm passionate about that. Why? Because I suffer it as well, and it's unacceptable. And that's by having decentralisation, the issues that affect the people that have the say and the power, they're more passionate about it.
Our skills system at the moment is dictated top down by central government departments telling colleges, you need to do this, you need to do that, you'll get money for this, you'll get money for that. What we really need is all of that decision making to go down to groups of local employers, colleges, universities, schools, talking to one another about what are the skills we're going to need in Huddersfield, what are the skills we're going to need in Sheffield in the next 10 years, and then making their plans on that basis, not being told by somebody in Whitehall, this is the skill system that you're going to need.
Huddersfield's got a very good reputation for research in identity politics, in regional governance, and because in many ways it's not in Leeds, it's not in Sheffield, it's not in York. It highlights that actually across the whole of Yorkshire there is a keenness to debate the future of regional government. And so in many ways the University of Huddersfield is perfectly placed to bring together different groups to talk about the future of Yorkshire. The event will have various reports written about it, which we'll be distributing to politicians and other people. We're also obviously being very fortunate to have been filmed by Kirklees TV, and we'll be producing using their materials. We're also going to be on Radio Leeds later on today, BBC Radio Leeds. And so we're going to be trying to engage with a large number of people in different parts of Yorkshire to make sure that this is a conversation that begins here but carries on with the people of Yorkshire.
People get angry locally, but the politicians locally can do very little about it because it's the decisions are taken nationally about what money's come to us and what we can use it on. So the localities aren't working and it needs fixing, and there are proposals coming from Parliament to do that, but as yet no government has been prepared to put those in place. And they always say, that people don't give power away, it has to be taken from them. So how on earth do we generate sufficient anger and impetus to make sure that the politicians know that we're going to take it away from them? And so they give it to us before we get to the stage of having riots.